podcast about the joy we get from American politics, or as we like to call it, real debate without the hate. Hi, I'm Emily Brewer, and I'm a moderate Republican from Virginia.
What? Well, I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Staley, and I'm a really right-wing conservative all the way through from Southside Virginia.
And I'm Hermie Sadler, and what did we just hear?
It boggles the mind because everything I've been reading in the mail says a proven conservative, not moderate conservative from Virginia. That is actually a recording from a couple years back of your opponent.
Yeah.
Dug it up, found it, and now it's our great intro after Larry the Cable Guy. How you doing, Herm? Did you introduce yourself? Did you introduce yourself?
I'm Hermie Sadler, and I'm turning left, but I'm not leaning left.
And I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley.
And I'm not moderate.
I'm leaning right, way far right than where your opponent is right now.
I've got to go back to that intro.
Yeah.
Just for a moment.
Wasn't that amazing?
I
never heard that before, did you?
I sent that to you the other night.
Oh, I guess you did hear it before. That's where I got it.
Yeah. And you like, no way.
I played it 19 times.
You said no way.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest.
And it kept getting funnier every time I played it.
Let's be honest. I think Delegate Brewer, she wasn't really anticipating having a challenge for this Republican nomination for the 17th Senate District. Had she not had a challenge, she probably could have just waltzed right into the general election.
Sure.
And probably wouldn't have had to try to reclassify herself as a way right-wing conservative.
A true Republican.
A true
conservative.
But now that she does have a nomination contest opponent, she has been constantly through text, email, social media, everything, been trying to tell everybody how conservative she is.
Well,
and
that recording says something a little different, my man.
So the thing is, it's like, with politicians, don't listen to what I tell you, listen to what she says about herself.
Well, what is the old adage? Believe them the first time they tell you who they are. I think that's probably going to be the way this recording is. But I'm to understand there's a lot more of this stuff out there. And I think, that's what the electorate needs to hear. We've got a lot of things to talk about. Yeah. Some exciting developments in your primary with the court case that we were talking about last week. We can talk about that. But before we get there is one guy that I know is more conservative than Delegate Brewer. He's our swear bearer. He's Shep Miles. Welcome, Shep.
What's going on? I'm actually sitting on the right of both of y'all today. When I hear that intro,
that's not often.
When I hear that intro, I've got one word comes to my mind. Bull.
Really?
Here we go.
I'll just
$25 already.
Another $25 right off the
swear
bat.
bears right out of the gate.
I mean, when you get this is what the problem is. We're going to talk about the court case in just a little while, but you have politicians that are just not true to themselves or true to the constituents. And this is what you come up with. And I'm sure you probably didn't have to dig very hard to find this.
No, that's a lot. One of the first things I learned, and when I started this process of getting into politics, was the opposition research term that I learned. And so there is a lot more where that came from, not only as it relates to her overall feelings or how she legislates or how she thinks, but her comments and the way she's voted on certain things related to the Second Amendment, related to climate change,
skill games,
siding with out-of-state special interest, the robotics programs at Franklin.
Yes.
Climate change.
Yeah, climate change. I mean, it's just a lot of things. And so now that we know, and which we'll get to in a moment, now that we know we're going to be lining up for a primary, as our audience that we're trying to reach through my campaign grows from a convention style approach to a primary style approach, a lot more people are going to be learning a lot more about the truth about my opponent in this primary.
And Senator, you've been through this before. Why do politicians feel like they have to portray themselves as something that they're not? If she wants to be a moderate Republican, fine, then be a moderate Republican. But as Hermie says, don't email, don't text, don't do all the mailers is the only, I think the term true conservative or phrase she uses. She only true conservative.
She Well, she tries to use the fact that she's been in the House of Delegates
Sure.
for 4 years.
Tested conservative.
Yeah, she's only proven, battle-tested conservative is how she markets herself. But the bottom line is, as we've researched, and as what she said about herself, she's especially as we were heading towards a convention, she felt like she really had to move way far to the right, because Bill knows better than I do, as I'm learning as I go. The people that typically show up and vote in conventions are the most conservative of the pack.
And they are. And the ones that actually vote in primaries are more conservative as well. I mean, you don't have a lot of moderates participating in the nomination process. And in this case, what you have is, quite frankly, something that I just played on my phone that contradicts what is going on in mailers. And then if that happens, let's just say generic candidate is doing this, says, I'm a Brib Rock conservative. And then there's a recording that sounds like this. Then they have to explain themselves. So what's the explanation? The explanation is, well, since 2016, I've matured. I've gotten better. But the problem is if that was the only thing you ever said, then it makes sense. But if you're making anti-Second Amendment, anti-pro-gun statements, if you're making statements that sound more like a liberal, then quite frankly, maturing doesn't seem to actually have occurred. What has happened is I'm taking advantage of the electorate, the voter, to make sure that they have short-term memories so I can remold myself, because all I really care about is not really representing them. That generic candidate cares about being elected and getting the power and being called senator.
Just getting elected.
I saw this on someone's Facebook page the other day. It says Emily Brewer's voting record with the caucus 57% of the time, other 43% of the time.
Well, I can tell you that caucus in the House of Delegates, and that's a House of Delegates, a Republican caucus, is a very conservative caucus. So those are issues that I think the voter needs to know about. They need to know about you too, Herm.
Yeah.